Hello and welcome back to the Women's Vibrancy Code podcast. Today we get to talk about pain, chronic pain. What do we do with it? Do you want to go on meds? Are there other options? What might be going on underneath that? And I have a special guest with me today. This is Dr. Njideka Olatunde. She is a visionary and creative energy behind Focus On Healing Wellness Institute. She's an accomplished naturopath and leading authority on the cultural integration of traditional health practices with conventional medicine for mind, body, and emotional wellness. She's an author, acclaimed speaker, podcast host, master reflexologist, pain relief educator, and consultant who has helped thousands of chronic pain sufferers relieve pain first with addiction and medicine-free pain relief treatment, using the power of touch and reflexology as an alternative in addressing the opioid epidemic. I'm so looking forward to this conversation, and I'm sure that there's going to be so much more. So first, Njideka, can you just tell a little bit about your story, your past? How did you become a naturopath? What led you to really focus on cultural integration of traditional health practices and specifically hone in on pain itself?
Okay, let me see. How do I make that story kind of brief, but to the point? Here we go. First of all, I grew up on what's known as home remedy. And as a child, back then, doctors used to come to your home for visits. So when I was a child, I saw doctors. I looked at them and saw them as being healers. And so I said, okay, that's what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be a healer. So by the time I got to college, I got a rude awakening because what I thought healers were, that's not what they were going to teach me to become. And so I said, okay, let me change my careers. So I changed my career and became a social worker. And during that particular time, I covered every area of social work, from infants to seniors, every type of social service experience that you could go through, I did it. But while doing my career as a social worker, I saw that everybody was going to the emergency room for their health care. And I said, oh, something's wrong with this picture. And all of a sudden, the energy sparked up again. Oh, I want to be a doctor. During this time period, that's when the alternatives, natural therapies and all that was coming to the forefront. So I went back to school and became a naturopathic practitioner. But before becoming a naturopathic practitioner, I had already had training in reflexology. So I brought the reflexology to the naturopathic experience. And so I added reflexology to my naturopathic practice. And one of the things, which to kind of give you a path of how all this started, when I first started my practice, I began my practice working with senior citizens. That's how I built my practice. And if you understand anything about working with seniors, you have to be on point when you work with seniors. You have to be ready when they say they're ready. And you have to be open to receiving what they want when they want it. So that was my experience. And so from working with the seniors, which really I did not realize at that time how crucial that was going to be for me, because working with the seniors laid the foundation for the work that I have done, what I am doing, and where I'm heading. It all started with the senior citizens. And to give the overview of what I mean by that is, the seniors, they loved the reflexology. They really loved it. And they said, okay, I like this reflexology, but can you now start taking care of my feet and hands? So they were looking for manicures and pedicures. I knew nothing about the beauty industry. So I'm based in what I call stress capital USA, AKA Washington, D.C. Okay. And so what happened was there was a training organization out of California that came to the East Coast, and they were in New York. They were putting together a training program on how to do reflexology in the beauty industry. So I said, okay, let me go up there and take this program and see what this is all about. So they said, okay, since we're here on the East Coast, we'll come down to DC and do a training program if you can put together and coordinate that. I'd never done anything like that before in my life. Created this training program and got all my health colleagues together and did the program. As a result of that, I wound up becoming that school's East Coast and Southeast instructor teaching reflexology in the beauty industry. So here's a point for the seniors. They opened up my instruction and training programs in reflexology. And from there, healthcare practitioners started becoming interested, and they want to know, well, how can we use reflexology? So I created a certification training program for healthcare practitioners in using reflexology. Fast forwarding up to that, in my practice, the seniors introduced me to their families, and their families started introducing me to other people. And then I got into the corporate connection in terms of reflexology. And then it moved me into research. And then I became involved in researching reflexology as it relates to pain. Going back, say, 2.5 years when we in the pandemic, and then we started looking at the opiate epidemic in terms of relieving pain, started me focusing on creating the program called Relieving Pain First Before Treatment in addressing the opiate epidemic. So that's kind of the path that brought me to what I do today in terms of reflexology and the power of touch.
So what I'm hearing is, well, first, my husband is a physical therapist and does home health. So most of his clientele and his patient population is an elderly population. And this theme of it's in their timing.
Yeah.
They know when they're available and when they're not available. So I feel like I hear it often. So I'm kind of giggling inside.
Mm-hmm.
And so it sounds like your specialty has really been to hone in on pain as a response to the opioid epidemic. And so to go, instead of opioids, we have touch and specifically reflexology. So now I go, all right, we are no longer have the expansiveness of being able to receive support in an online space. It's got to be in person. But I imagine there are reflexologists all over. Mm-hmm. And so just give us some nuggets. What have you found from the perspective of patients coming in with pain throughout their body, chronic pain, diagnosis of fibromyalgia, maybe autoimmune conditions, low back pain, pain in their shoulders, and they come in and they receive touch and they receive reflexology? What have you seen and what does the research show?
And I'm going to share something with you. Because of the pandemic, I have been able to do this virtually. And so that...
Wait, what? Okay,
yes.
Can we do some virtual reflexology? What does that look like?
I'll share some little tidbits with you.
Okay.
I will. And the reason why I say that is because the pandemic kind of created that you had to become real creative in terms of how we're going to deal with health and wellness. Mm-hmm. And to address the question that you asked as it relates to pain. Think about it like this. We're the business side of what we do. And I say that to say it's when a person goes to the store to buy something, they know specifically what they want and they go and buy it. When a person comes to a practitioner and they're in pain, it's not but one thing they want. They don't want anything else but pain relief. So, in order to deal with pain relief from the standpoint of understanding, because you gave some examples of different various pain problems that people have, what is not often presented is the pain-stress connection. And it's the pain-stress connection that is often misunderstood. And the medical community says what I'll close to about 75 to 95% of all illness is the result of stress, but we don't understand or address the stress-pain connection. Pain does not happen without stress. And what I'm saying when I say that is, stress is something that happens outside of your body that you bring inside. And when you bring the stress inside your body, it's trying to find ways to come out. It may be in the form of affecting the immune system. It may be in the form of back pain. It may be in the form of a headache. But those are not the normal channels of elimination. So because they're trying to come out the body, they become pain.
And so then if someone gets put on an opioid or takes an ibuprofen or a nerve pain reliever, that's not necessarily helping to address it getting out of the body, is what you're saying.
Exactly. But it's also causing another problem, because along with understanding the pain-stress connection, you also have to understand the mind, the body, the emotions, and the spirit connection in relieving the pain-stress connection. All of that ties in. That's the holistic approach in terms of relieving pain that is a result of stress. And so what we're talking about, and when I say in terms of how virtually done, when I do my practice, there are two important pain relief techniques that have to be done in order for you to even get to the treatment. And the first technique is called listening. You have to listen. And by listening as a practitioner, what I am doing is I'm listening because you're going to talk to me about your pain. And as you're talking to me about your pain, I'm listening for what is that stress connection to your pain. So you're listening for the pain-stress connection. Once I have identified that, now the next thing that you want is pain relief. And that's when we move into using reflexology, the power of touch, to relieve the pain. And once I have relieved the pain, now we can move to the treatment. That's why I say relieve pain first before treatment.
Okay. So let's say you're talking to a woman and she's struggling with really, really painful menstrual cycles.
Mm-hmm.
And she has high stress. She's running a business. She is juggling children. Maybe she's feeling really dismissed or unheard in her marriage. I'm kind of thinking through a specific client. And she's seen the OBGYNs that have done the ablation and told her to go on the pill. And she doesn't want that. But she is in a lot of discomfort. And now she's starting to struggle with other pain in the body. Okay. So you've listened, and what have you heard regarding the stress-pain connection?
Okay, the first thing that we're talking about, you got to deal with mindset. Because when you're talking about stress, that's something that you're dealing with physically. And because you're dealing with that stress physically, what is happening is, remember, pain doesn't happen overnight. Pain is a process. First of all, you get a pain symptom. Oh, it's not that bad. I can deal with this. Then it comes back again in another kind of way. Oh, it's a little annoying, but I'll get through this one. And then the body's going to say, okay, I gave you 2 warnings, and you're saying that You're not going to address it. So now I'm coming back full force. I'm coming back full force because of what? You were dealing with the outside stress that you had internalized, and you kept going with that. And now all of a sudden, we got something that can be diagnosed as an illness as a result of the outside stress, that you paid more attention to the stress rather than paying attention to the pain. Mm-hmm. So as you're talking this, you're now beginning to open up to see the connection to, oh yes, my husband and I, we got in had a serious argument. And yeah, that pain did happen and I didn't do anything. So then you're able to start putting the pieces together, because that's where the healing begins, when you take back control. We've got to learn how to stop giving up our power to somebody else to relieve us. That's called the quick fix. The quick fix does not work. It's all inside, and we have to work at it from that perspective.
I love this. So to go, all right, we are listening. As a practitioner, you're listening, but also as a patient or as an individual experiencing pain, I am listening to my body. I'm listening inside and acknowledging that it's coming from stress, but knowing that the stress response that is pain is simply because I've taken the outside and I've internalized it.
Yeah.
And by looking outside of me for a medication or someone else to fix it or look for that quick fix, it's giving my power away rather than actually looking at my thinking and looking how I've internalized this external thing and brought it into my body, which is causing pain. And instead, there could be healthier ways to let it out of my body. Listen, acknowledge that pain-stress connection. Then you move to relieving the pain through touch and reflexology. And then after that, you go into actual healing and solutions. But it sounds like you can't get into the actual solutions until the pain is relieved. Because if you switch the order, someone's not going to be in full receivership or able to hear it because it's being clouded by the pain that they're experiencing in their body.
And to add to what you said, I also talk to my clients. I like to paint pictures for them because visually they can start seeing. Let's look at this example here. I always talk about the automobile. We all understand the car. And the automobile is an exact replica of how our body is designed. It runs the exact same way. Now, when you purchase your automobile, the salesperson will say, X number of months you need to take your car for maintenance and blah, blah, this to keep it going and that kind of stuff. And we do that without asking any questions. Or we're driving our car and all of a sudden we hear some clanking or the engine light comes on and we get concerned, go straight to the mechanic and say, this is what's happening. Now, we do that exact same thing with our body when we go to the doctor. We go to the doctor and say, oh, I got a pain here in my back. And so what's the doctor going to say? First thing I say, well, we need to take some tests to find out what's going on. You're in pain. And then he's going to say, well, here's a prescription for your pain problem. But I don't even know what's causing the pain. I'm giving you a prescription for a pain problem, but I got to take a test to find out what's causing the pain. Look at that picture and look at what's wrong with it. That's how a mechanic operates with your automobile. You can't expect your doctor to do the exact same thing as it relates to your body. And we've got to change that. So which means when we go to the doctor, we've got to go to the doctor prepared to ask questions. And I always tell my clients, when you tell your child, no, they can't do something or this is not appropriate right now. And what's the first response they're going to say to you? Why? That's children's favorite word. Why? You've got to go back and let that little child come out in you when you go to the doctor says, well, you have such and such and such, or this and this. Ask them why. Why did this happen? Why do I need this? Why are you giving it? When you ask somebody why, they have to come up with some kind of answer for you. And then you could start doing your research, because that's what's important in terms of you and your practitioner connecting in one. It's not a one-way street. You and the practitioner have to be working together in oneness to produce the healing that you are looking for.
And I think so often people will come to me and, they've got 15 minutes maybe with their practitioner. It's go, go, go. There isn't space to ask questions. There's a perceived hierarchy where often patients don't feel empowered to be able to ask the questions, and they feel dismissed, and they feel like providers say, but everything looks just fine here. This is your answer. And so I think it's also not only being in the place of self-advocacy, but also being willing to change who you're asking.
You're correct.
Like I always say, one thing, she wrote Professional Troublemaker, Lovey Ajayi Jones. She says, stop asking people for directions to places that they haven't been. So we get to go, who am I asking? And then this car example, I often use it too, but the analogy that I give is I take my engine light is on, I go in, and that provider or that mechanic just takes a hammer to the check engine light. It's like, there you go, it's out, it's fixed. It's like, well, you didn't even look under the hood. And so to be able to go, okay, wait a minute, who am I asking? Let me be in the place of self-advocacy. Let me ask myself why. Can you tell me a little bit? Okay, wait a minute. Reflexology virtually. So we're gonna take the pain away with touch, specifically touching feet. And I think of reflexology is touching feet. Am I incorrect?
Feet, hands, and ears.
Feet, hands, and ears. Okay. So you're meeting someone virtually and you're just teaching them how to appropriately touch their feet, hands, and ears, and it takes away the pain?
Let me share the example with you.
Okay.
Let's use the example of you hit your elbow, the funny bone. What's the first thing you're going to do?
You grab it. You hold it.
No. What's the first thing you're going to do?
Say, ow.
You're going to do a verbal response. Sometimes it's nice. Sometimes it's not so nice.
Okay.
Message goes through the nerve endings directly to the brain. Trauma in the elbow area. What's the next thing you're going to do?
Shake it or grab it.
Right. Message goes through the nerve ending to the brain. By you touching it, send the body's natural pain relievers to that area to bring comfort. That's the touch approach. Remember I told you, mind-body connection with the pain-stress connection. So, doing that is the first form of relieving the pain by sending the body's natural pain relievers known as endorphins. That's what reflexology is. Reflexology operates just like the pain medication, because what the difference is, the pain medication numbs the nerve endings, where the power of touch stimulates the nerve endings to do what it's supposed to do, communicate with the brain so the brain can send what is needed in the area that's in stress. That's the concept in terms of what we're doing when we do reflexology. Now, everybody who's listening to this, at some point in time in your life, you have experienced or you have received reflexology and don't know that you have. When you were a child or as a parent, there's an activity called This Little Piggy. And if you remember this little piggy, you're turning the toes when you're saying going to the market, And what you are doing, that's the first form of reflexology because all the nerve endings to your head are in your toes and in your fingers. So at that particular time, when you're circling or moving in backward and forth, you're stimulating the nerve endings to the brain to do what? Bring about relaxation and calming to the body. And if you think about a baby, when you do something like that, they get all giggly and real happy and calm. And in some instances, they may even go to sleep beyond it because what you've done is you've calmed them down. The body cannot heal itself no matter what treatment, no matter what medication, no matter what therapy you're on, until it's in a state of rest and relaxation. And that's what reflexology does in the pain relief first before treatment.
And it's fascinating to go towards, rather than numbing, to actually stimulate. And in stimulation, rest and relaxation happens so that healing happens. And on the flip side, when we numb or medicate or go to quick fixes, it's actually so addictive.
Yes. And destructive in the process, because if you're numbing the nerve system, you've stopped your lines of communication from the organs and systems of the body that communicate through the nerve endings. So if you stop the means of communication, now your body's defense mechanism has to come into play, trying to block this foreign substance, and it becomes overwhelming. Then what happens? The immune system starts breaking down. And when your first line of defense breaks down, what happens? Invasions come inside the body that wind up being other health problems, now known as what? Disease, illness.
Right. And now we've got a new thing from the outside that we've taken in and internalized and has become part of us, that now we have to equip the body, the mind, the spirit to get rid of, which compounds the thing that initially needed to get rid of. And I'm sure there's people listening going, really? I've had chronic back pain for 10 years. I've seen all the specialists. I had the stenosis and the surgery, and you're telling me that I'm going to rub my toes and fingers and my pain's going to go away? So what's your response to that?
I like that question because I'm going to tell you why. People who've been in chronic pain for a long period of time have now become victims of their pain, which means that they have accepted the fact that this is how I have to live all of my life. And we talk about mindset. If your mind is stuck in that, then that becomes your reality. When you change your mindset, your reality changes. So, has pain been good for me? If it's been good for me, why should I give it up? If pain is not good for me, I want a relief and a way out. See, you have to look at the yin and yang principles, see the one or the other. And so from the standpoint, and it's not putting anybody down. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is, are you at a point in your life now where you're ready to look at other alternatives, looking at other ways? If the ways that you've used have not worked, have you thrown in the towel and said, this is it? Or are you still in that search mode? Are you still in that mode to say, let me look at other things? One of the things I want everybody to understand, when I say reflexology, that's not the only way. Reflexology is only dealing with relieving pain first before treatment. Because when I talk about treatment, I'm talking about the integrative approaches of medication-free alternatives and practices coming together in oneness to address the problem. For example, to help give some clarity, if you've had chronic back pain for a number of years, and this is a common problem for people who've been in car accidents.
Or sit at the computer.
Or sit at the computer, inactivity, whatever. and it's become a chronic thing that you've had for years, and you've gone to all types of specialists. Number one, you have 11 systems of the body that each requires something different. So no one therapy is guaranteed to do it all. You have to incorporate it, which means that if we're talking about, say, chronic back pain, do I need to look at structuring, doing a therapy that's going to help me put my structure back together with my posture? Is that something that's needed? Do I need to do the physical therapy and then have massage therapy complementing my physical therapy? Do I need to now look at some specific exercises for my back problem to work along with all the other things I'm doing? Do I need some energy work? Is there energy that needs to be moved out of that area so that the body can heal? We have to understand incorporating, because we're focused on allopathic method that only sees pain. And the problem is they only see pain in the area you tell them is in pain. But the reality is that's not the cause of the pain. That's the outlet. That's the pain trying to relieve the body. That's not where your problem is. So which means that you've been in chronic pain for a number of years. Have we ever addressed the cause? What's in the body? What's causing the body to experience pain? Which means that there's a deficiency somewhere. And you've got to connect with, is that deficiency physical? Is that deficiency mental? Is that deficiency emotional? Is that deficiency spiritual? Even is that deficiency financially? All of that plays a part in what's going on inside your body. And you can't separate that.
Right. Totally, totally. And I imagine there are people listening, nodding their heads, going, yes, yes. And where am I going to find the time when I'm already dealing with the stress of life and all of the things that are being juggled and the onslaught of all the things that we do and time moving so much faster? And so now I'm going to have to fit in physical therapy and massage therapy and energy work and to address the trauma that happened when I was a kid. And I'm going to go see a naturopath. And so I'm just like, I'm on board with you here. But I also imagine that is what is happening in the minds of the listeners. So
another excellent question. And here we go again.
Yeah.
If you choose to stay in what your eyes are seeing 24/7 via media or however you get your information that's causing you to have a blockage of time, that's where you're stuck. There's time for everything, because the first thing we've got to understand is, how important am I to my wellness? How important am I to my physical well-being? How important am I to my body as a whole? How am I seeing my body? If I'm mentally seeing my body as all these things I got to add to my day, you know what that's saying? You're seeing your body as a warehouse. And if you see your body as a warehouse, that means you're about storing stuff. And when you store stuff in a warehouse, there's no rhyme or reason to it. If you see your body as a temple and something sacred, that means I've got to find a way so that my sacredness can be my wellness. It's a decision. It's about a choice. That's all it is. It's a choice you make. And whatever choice you make, that's your choice. And it's all right. But it's not a two-way street. You have to participate in your healing process if you want to heal. It's as simple as that. Me as a practitioner, I would love to have the job where I've been replaced, that you no longer need me. You know why? Because that means I've done my job. Because what we don't understand in the traditional culture as it relates to a healer was known as an artist. And an artist is something that creates. And so if I have been a good healing artist and created the healing plan or healing blueprint for you to take back control of your life from pain, my job is done. And when you do, just like on your wall, you have that picture. Artist painted that picture, created that picture. And what do? We connect with it in our own special way. Because what did that artist do? Created it and gave it to us to use however we need to use it. That's what a healing practitioner is all about. It's creating and assisting the body in the healing process so that the end result is health and wellness.
So good. Thank you. If someone is curious, I'll make sure links are in the show notes. You can go to focushealing.com. You can find her on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn too. Any last parting words for someone who is leaning into this and wants to learn more? Do you have an academy? Do you train reflexologists? How do they receive more from you or learn more?
First of all, I want to say thank you for having me as your guest to share this information with your listeners. And in the African tradition, you never come to somebody's home for the first time without bringing a gift. And I have a gift for you and your listeners. I've created a poster on how to relieve pain and stress medication free. And all you do is you go to touchology.reflexology.com and download the poster. That's my gift to you. The other thing is that I do have a book which is called Reflexology Today, a Family Affair, designed specifically to teach you how to use reflexology for various pain relief techniques. And you can get that on my website at focusonhealing.com. And when you go to my website, I ask you to go to the back office and write a comment, write a question, anything you want to know about relieving pain using medication-free alternative. By all means, write your questions down, write your comments. I will get back to you and address them. And I leave you with two most powerful words that are healing. And to remember them, and we're talking about gratitude. And the gratitude in terms of for your healing is wake up every morning giving thanks, being thankful, say thank you, practice thank you. That is one of the most powerful healing tools that you can exchange and share for yourself and with others. That's the first. The next one is to learn how. This is for all the naysayers and those sitting on the fence. To learn how to let that little girl and little boy inside of you come out and play. Life is not as serious as we have made it as adults. Get out of being so serious. Get silly sometimes, and you'll be surprised how healing being silly can be. And I leave you with these words. The power of touch heals all.
Njideka Olatunde, thank you so much for your gifts in the world. I trust that listeners will find your website, the touchology, reflexology.com. I'll also add that so that can be in the show notes. And we're grateful for you. I'm grateful for this exchange. I'm grateful for this time. I'm grateful that we have the opportunity to offer our gifts and our healing modalities and our art. and creativity to those that receive from us so that we can actually feel spectacular and grateful and playful, and to remember that everything is possible no matter the circumstances or the past. We today get to create our future. And so cheers to turning it around if you're needing that, and for all of us to create a spectacular future. So good. Thank you, everyone.